Maya Webb felt the wrongness in the backpack before she understood why. It was heavier than it should have been for a 7-year-old boy. She had lifted hundreds of bags in 3 years of teaching second grade at Sunshine Grove Elementary. This one felt like bricks. Or metal. Or both. "June, did you bring rocks to school again?" she teased automatically, fingers tightening on the strap. The little boy looked up from his dinosaur drawing, big dark eyes blinking behind long lashes. He shook his head. "No, Miss Webb. Just my lunch and Mr. Bear." 23 children chattered and fidgeted behind her, crayons clacking, chairs scraping linoleum. Outside, the Los Angeles sun poured through the east-facing windows, catching dust motes and giving the classroom a warm, sleepy glow. It should have been an ordinary Tuesday. Instead, Maya's skin prickled. She had heard something in the hallway earlier. 2 men speaking rapid Korean by the supply closet, low and urgent. She hadn't understood everything, but she had picked out 3 words clearly. Bomb. The boy. After lunch. At the time, she had paused, frowned, told herself she was imagining things. But now, with June's backpack dragging at her arm like an anchor, the memory slammed back into focus. Her heart stuttered. "Class, eyes up for just a sec," she said, voice coming out too bright. "I need everyone to listen to me, okay?" 23 faces turned toward her. Even the class clown in the front row stopped twirling his pencil. Maya's fingers unzipped the backpack. A metal box sat inside, wedged between a superhero lunchbox and a battered stuffed bear. The box was wrapped in duct tape, a digital display blinking relentlessly. 00060005. The room narrowed to that tiny red countdown. There was no time to think about protocol, about training, about anything. Maya grabbed the box and the bear together, shoved them back in the bag, and sprinted for the nearest window. The glass was latched. She slammed her elbow into it once, twice, until it gave with a sharp crack. "Everybody down!" she screamed. "Under your desks, now!" Little chairs scraped. Someone started to cry. Another child laughed. A wild, confused sound. 0003. Maya hurled the backpack with every ounce of strength she had. Time stretched. The bag spun end over end in the sunlight, a grotesque parody of slow motion. 002001. The world became fire. The blast went off midair, a white-orange bloom that swallowed the window's frame before the bag even reached the small river behind the school. The shockwave punched through the classroom like a fist. All the windows on the east side exploded at once, shards of glass turning into a glittering storm. The sound hit next. Deafening. Primal. Maya's body lifted, tossed backward like a rag doll, slammed into the opposite wall. Her lungs emptied. Her ears rang. For a heartbeat, she knew nothing but light and pressure. Then the screaming started. Children shrieked and sobbed from beneath their desks. Ceiling tiles crashed down. The room seemed to tilt, then steady. Maya tasted blood where she'd bitten her lip. Her vision blurred, but she forced herself onto her hands and knees. "Hands on your heads, stay low," she choked out. "Crawl to the door, don't stand up, don't touch the glass." She moved from desk to desk, her legs shaky, pulling little bodies out from under tables, her eyes scanning for injuries, for missing faces. 23. She had to see 23. Far away, beyond the shattered windows, a siren began to wail. On the roof of an office building 300 yards away, 2 men in black tactical gear lowered their binoculars almost in unison. "She threw it out," the taller one said in Korean, voice flat with disbelief. "The teacher threw it." He had expected to see the classroom erupt from within, to watch glass and brick and small bodies fly outward as the bomb did its work. Instead, he'd seen a black woman in a floral blouse and sensible shoes hurl the bag into the air at the last possible second. His partner cursed softly. "Choi is going to kill us," he muttered. The kid's still alive. The taller man's jaw flexed. Then we finish it. We go in, find the boy, clean up the loose ends. Her too. She's seen too much. He slid his handgun from its holster, checked the magazine, and stalked toward the roof access door. Down below, in the shattered classroom, Maya Webb was counting heads. 21, 22. She came up one short and her stomach iced over. "Where's June?" she whispered. The hallway was chaos. Fire alarms screeched. Red strobes pulsed on and off, painting everything in frantic color. Smoke drifted through vents and open doors. Teachers shouted, students cried, the air filled with a cacophony of fear. "Maya!" Principal Kim sprinted toward her, soot streaking her normally immaculate blazer. "What happened? Are your kids—" "They're okay," Maya gasped, one arm wrapped around a sobbing girl as she shepherded a line of second graders toward the emergency exit. "We need to get them to the far lot. And someone needs to call the police." There was 3 sharp cracks echoed from the front entrance. Not fireworks. Not a car backfiring. Gunshots. Principal Kim went white. "Get them out, now," she said. "Far parking lot, no one back inside, I'll call." She pivoted, already digging for her phone. Maya forced a reassuring smile she didn't feel. "It's okay, babies. Hold hands. We're going for a walk drill, okay? Just like practice." They poured out into the sunlight in a stumbling line. Someone tripped. Someone lost a shoe. Maya scooped up the smallest boy, clutched him to her chest, and half ran, half staggered toward the cluster of teachers gathering children by the chain-link fence. She spun, counting heads as they bunched together. 21, 22. Her blood ran cold. "Where's June Park?" The children glanced at each other, then back toward the school. "He went back for Mr. Bear," a girl whispered, tears streaking her cheeks. "He dropped him." Maya saw him then through the glass of the side door, a small figure in a superhero t-shirt, hand pressed to the crash bar. His eyes were huge. When he saw her, his mouth moved. "Miss Webb, I forgot Mr. Bear." He slipped inside before she could scream. Maya didn't think. She shoved the nearest teacher toward the line of kids. "Don't let anyone move," she snapped. "Keep them here. Call 911 and don't let anyone back in." Then she tore across the asphalt and plunged back into the smoke. Inside, the hallway felt like another world. The alarms were louder, the air thicker. Somewhere closer now, heavy footsteps pounded against the tile. Men's voices barked in Korean. "The boy," Choi said before his father gets here. "Check every room." Maya's blood turned to ice. "June," she called, keeping her voice low. "Where are you, sweetheart?" A small face poked out of her shattered classroom door. "I got him," he whispered, triumphant, clutching a ragged teddy bear to his chest. "I got Mr. Bear." Relief hit her so hard her knees nearly gave out. She scooped him up, ignoring the flare of pain in her shoulder as glass-cut skin pulled. "Good job," she breathed. "Now we run. Wrap your arms around my neck and don't let go, okay?" He obeyed without question, small arms tightening, legs hooking around her waist. His weight and the adrenaline made her vision swim, but she forced her legs to move. Footsteps thundered somewhere behind her. A voice shouted. She didn't look back. She sprinted for the back stairwell, shoes slipping on a smear of something dark on the glossy floor. A bullet hit the cinderblock wall inches from her head and showered them with gray dust. "Down!" she gasped, ducking instinctively as another shot rang out. She slammed into the stairwell door with her shoulder, nearly lost her footing as they lurched down the steps. Her ankle twisted, pain lanced up her leg, but she kept moving. The first bullet hit her between the shoulder and the spine, a white-hot punch that stole her breath. Her brain registered impact, heat, shock, then the sour metallic smell of blood. She staggered, nearly dropped the boy, bit down on a scream. It doesn't matter, keep him safe. Keep moving. Another shot. Fire exploded along her ribs as the second bullet tore through, spinning her sideways into the cold cinder block. Miss Maya! June sobbed against her neck. She could feel his tears soaking her blouse. It's okay, baby, she lied, vision flickering. I've got you, we're almost there. The basement corridor was dim and smelled of old paper and cleaning chemicals. Long, unused storage rooms lined both sides. She could hear the stairwell door crash open behind them, hear boots pounding down. This way, she whispered, more to herself than to him. She half stumbled, half dragged them into a storage closet stacked with yellowing gym mats and broken desks. As she turned to pull the door closed, the third bullet caught her thigh, just above the knee. This time she couldn't hold back the scream. It ripped out of her, raw and animal, before she clamped a hand over her mouth. They collapsed behind the gym mats, Maya's body a trembling cage around the boy. His heart hammered against her ribs like a trapped bird. She pressed her bloody hand gently over his mouth, her other arm banding his small body tight to her chest. Not a sound. She breathed into his hair. Please, sweetheart. Not one sound. Boots thudded into the hallway outside. A shadow cut the thin line of light under the door. She came down here, one of the men said, voice matter of fact. She's bleeding bad. Won't have gone far. Check every room. The door handle rattled once, twice. It began to turn. Maya closed her eyes and prayed for the first time since her grandmother's funeral. If you're there, if anyone's listening, don't let him die. Take me if you have to, but don't let them find him. The handle stopped mid-turn. A phone rang, shrill in the echoing corridor. What? The taller man snapped, answering. We're about to... He paused, listening. He's already here? Now? Another pause. A hissed curse. Fine. Fall back. We'll finish it later. Boot steps retreated faster now. The voices moved away. The echo faded. Maya didn't move. Minutes, or seconds she couldn't tell, bled together. Her shoulder burned, her back throbbed. Her leg felt like it belonged to someone else. Warm blood pooled beneath them, soaking into old cardboard boxes. At last, when the ringing in her ears was louder than the alarms, she shifted. We have to go, she whispered, lips numb. We have to get you out. Miss Maya, you're bleeding, June whimpered, his fingers sticky where he clutched her sleeve. You're bleeding a lot. I know, baby, we're going to find your daddy. Her own voice sounded far away, not quite her own. She eased the door open. The corridor outside was empty. Somewhere, faint but getting closer, sirens wailed. One step, then another. Each one sent new waves of agony up through her leg and into her back. She held the boy tighter and climbed toward the light. The first thing she saw when she emerged onto the ground floor was Mr. Chen's body. He lay on his side in the main hallway, eyes open, one arm outstretched as if still reaching for the door. Blood spread beneath him in a dark halo. His keyring had spilled nearby, dozens of worn metal teeth glinting in the flickering red emergency lights. Maya's stomach lurched. Mr. Chen had 3 grandchildren whose pictures he showed her every Friday. He brought extra dumplings on Lunar New Year. A few feet away, Mr. Rodriguez sprawled on his back, staring sightlessly at the ceiling. He'd coached Little League on weekends and told terrible dad jokes that made the kids groan and secretly grin. Maya forced herself not to look at their faces. She turned June's head into her shoulder so he couldn't see. Her own vision blurred with tears. Don't look, she whispered. Don't look, sweetheart. Then they were at the doors, bursting out into the harsh afternoon sun and the hysteria of the parking lot. Police cruisers and ambulances had swarmed the far side of the campus, lights strobing. Teachers huddled with clusters of children. Parents sobbed and shouted names. The air smelled of exhaust, fear, and smoke. Maya. Principal Kim ran toward them, her normally neat hair disheveled, expression transforming from terror to raw relief as she caught sight of the boy in Maya's arms. "You found him," she breathed. "Thank God. You—" Her words broke off as her eyes registered the spreading blood on Maya's shirt and pants. Her face went gray. "Oh my God. Maya, we need a medic. Now." Maya tried to answer, but her tongue felt thick. Her legs wobbled. A siren whooped louder from nearby, not an ambulance's, but something deeper, more expensive. A black SUV screeched to a halt at the edge of the lot, tires squealing. Its doors flew open. 3 men in dark suits stepped out first, scanning the chaos with trained intensity. Then a 4th emerged from the back. He was tall, broad-shouldered, the cut of his suit so sharp it almost hurt to look at. His hair was black and perfectly styled, his jawline all angles, his gaze like onyx. For a heartbeat, he was just another wealthy parent in a hurry. Then Maya saw the way his eyes locked onto the child in her arms with feral focus. Park Minho. Even without having met him, she knew. The name slotted into place with the force of inevitability. He moved toward them with long, economical strides, the crowd instinctively parting. The nearer he came, the more every instinct in Maya's body screamed danger. "June!" His voice was rough, deeper than she expected. "Son." The boy's head jerked up at the sound. His expression changed. Fear, confusion, hope. He shifted in Maya's arms as Minho reached them. For the first time, the man's gaze flicked to Maya's face. There was gratitude there, barely leashed, and something else. Wariness, calculation. He took in the blood, the trembling in her legs, the way she held his son like he was the only thing anchoring her to the world. Then his arms came up to take the boy. "Come here," he said hoarsely in Korean. "It's okay now. I've got you." Every cell in Maya's body expected June to go, to twist eagerly toward the father he'd talked about, dreamed about. Instead, the child tightened his grip around her neck, buried his face in her shoulder, and sobbed one word that ricocheted through the parking lot like a gunshot. "Mom, I'm scared, Mom." The world stopped. The murmurs, the radio chatter, the sobs. It all seemed to mute for 3 stunned heartbeats. Principal Kim's mouth fell open. A nearby officer froze halfway through raising a radio to his shoulder. Park Minho's expression didn't change. His eyes did. Whatever warmth, or at least human gratitude, had been there vanished. The temperature behind his irises dropped 40 degrees. "What did he just call you?" he asked quietly. Maya opened her mouth, but her throat closed. Blood roared in her ears. "He's confused," she managed. "He's traumatized. There was smoke, gunfire. He saw—" "Put my son down." Minho's tone stayed soft, but it carried a command that made her skin prickle. He wasn't asking. He was a man used to obedience. "Sir," a uniformed officer cut in, stepping slightly between them, one hand hovering near his weapon. "We need to get statements from everyone involved, and this woman needs immediate medical attention. The boy as well." Another man in a suit strode up, flipping open a leather wallet to flash a badge that wasn't local PD. His gaze swept over Maya and the boy, then settled on the officer. "Federal jurisdiction," he said crisply. "The attack appears to be linked to an ongoing organized crime investigation. These 2 are primary witnesses. They're coming with us under protective custody." The officer hesitated. "With respect, Agent, my responsibility is to get them to a hospital?" The agent finished, unruffled. "They'll receive private medical care at a secure location. Or would you prefer their faces on the evening news while the people who ordered this try again?" The words slid into the chaos like oil. Maya's knees finally buckled. She sank, barely managing to lower June to the pavement without dropping him. He wailed, arms tightening like a chokehold. "Sweetheart," she rasped, cupping his tear-streaked face with bloody hands. "Look at me." His gaze, glassy with panic, met hers. "That's your dad," she said. "He came to get you. You're safe now. You're going to go home with him, okay?" "I want to stay with you, Mom," the boy sobbed, louder this time. The second use of the word sent a fresh ripple through the watching crowd. Maya's stomach knotted. She stroked his hair, forcing her voice to stay gentle. "I'm your teacher, Miss Webb. I read you dinosaur stories, remember? Your daddy loves you. You need to go with him." Behind them, Minho stood very still. "My son has never called anyone that," he said, each word precise. "Not his grandmother, not his nannies, no one, since his mother died when he was 3. He took a step closer, looming now, the scent of his cologne sharp beneath the smell of smoke and antiseptic. "So explain to me, Miss Webb, why a woman he's known for less than a year is suddenly Mom." Maya could feel consciousness fraying at the edges. Pain pulsed in time with her heartbeat. Still, some stubborn core of her refused to look away. "He's in shock," she said hoarsely. "He watched his classroom explode. He heard gunfire. He saw things no child should. I was there. I held him. I told him he was safe. That's what mothers do." His brain made the connection. Minho's jaw clenched. "Convenient," he murmured. "For you." The edges of Maya's vision dimmed. She swayed, catching herself with one blood-slicked hand on the asphalt. Paramedics jostled closer with a stretcher. "She's losing a lot of blood," one said sharply. "We have to move her now, or she'll crash." "No hospitals." Minho didn't raise his voice, but the men in suits around him shifted subtly, closing ranks. "I have doctors. She comes with us." "She's a victim," the officer protested. "This is a crime scene, and the child, my son, is 7 and terrified," Minho snapped, the veneer of politeness cracking. "You want a statement? Call my lawyers. Right now, I'm getting him somewhere safe." He pulled out his phone, spoke rapid Korean into it. Orders about cleaning things up, handling the police. The world tilted drunkenly around Maya. She felt hands, strong, sure, catch her as she pitched forward. The last thing she saw before darkness swallowed her was Park Minho's face close to hers, expression unreadable. "You saved him," he said softly. "Now I need to know why." Then the void took her. "If you're already on the edge of your seat, hit that subscribe button." The narrator's voice cuts in, invisible to the characters but very real to your listeners. "You don't want to miss what happens when Maya wakes up in the home of the man whose enemies just tried to blow up her class." Maya woke to the steady beep of a heart monitor and the sterile smell of antiseptic. For a disoriented moment, she thought she was in a hospital after all. The mattress beneath her felt softer than any gurney should, though, and when she forced her eyes open, she found not fluorescent tiles and curtain partitions, but floor-to-ceiling glass. The Los Angeles skyline sprawled beyond the windows, all glitter and distance. She lay in a bed big enough to swallow her entire apartment. Crisp white linens, a sleek bedside table, a vase of white lilies. Panic chased away the lingering fog. She tried to sit up. Pain exploded through her left shoulder, her back, her thigh, a chorus of agony that yanked a strangled gasp from her lungs. "Don't move," a woman's voice said firmly. A nurse in navy scrubs appeared at her side, eyes sharp but not unkind. "You've been through hell, Miss Webb. 3 bullets out, 2 blood transfusions in. If you tear anything open, my boss will fire me, and then your host will probably shoot me," she added dryly. Maya swallowed. Her throat felt like sandpaper. "Where am I?" she croaked. "Where's June? Is he—" "The boy is fine," the nurse interrupted. He's with his father. You're in Mr. Park's residence. You've been unconscious for 2 days. 2 days. Her mind flailed. Her roommate, the police, her class. I have to go, she said, trying again to push herself up, ignoring the fireworks of pain. I need to talk to the detectives. My roommate is probably freaking out. My principal. You're not going anywhere. The new voice cut across hers like a blade. It came from the doorway. Park Minho stepped into the room, this time without the armor of a full suit. Dark slacks, white shirt, sleeves rolled to reveal strong forearms, a Rolex glinting against tan skin. Somehow, the relaxed clothes made him look more dangerous, not less. Like a predator who didn't need a costume to intimidate. The nurse melted back, suddenly very interested in the IV pump. You can't keep me here, Maya said, before fear could catch up. That's kidnapping. You're a guest, Minho replied smoothly, crossing to the window. He clasped his hands behind his back, gazing out at his city as if she weren't bleeding into his imported sheets. Recovering from injuries you sustained while protecting my son. He turned, leaning a hip against the sill. The police have been informed you're receiving private medical care and will give your statement when you're able. Your roommate has been told you're safe. You have nothing to worry about. Maya's laugh came out ragged. Right, because waking up in a stranger's penthouse with bullet wounds and no say in my own movements is definitely the picture of safety. He studied her, head tilted slightly. You took 3 bullets meant for my child, he said. You hid him from trained killers while you were dying. You saved his life at the risk of your own. He paused. And for reasons I don't yet understand, he has decided you're his mother. The word hung between them like a live wire. So no, Miss Webb, you're not leaving. Not until I figure out whether that's a coincidence or a threat. If you want to see how Maya navigates being trapped in a criminal kingpin's penthouse while his traumatized son clings to her as Mom, make sure you're subscribed and tell me in the comments, would you take Minho's protection deal or risk going back to your old life? Minho's words hung in the quiet like a threat and a promise. Maya forced herself to hold his gaze, even as her pulse rabbit-kicked in her throat. There is no game, she said, each word scraped raw. I'm a teacher. I read phonics and grade spelling tests and break up arguments over who stole whose crayon. I didn't ask to be anywhere near your war. Something flickered in his eyes at that word, war, but it was gone too fast to pin down. Yet, here you are, he said. In my home, in my son's head. I didn't put myself there, she shot back. You did. The men who tried to kill him did. Whoever decided a 7-year-old boy was fair collateral damage did. Her chest heaved. Pain bit at her, hot and sharp. She was suddenly, acutely aware that this man could end her with a phone call. But the image of June's small body curled against her, whispering, Mom, I'm scared, kept her spine straight. Minho's mouth curved, not quite into a smile. The expression didn't reach his eyes. You're brave, he said. Or very stupid. Maybe both, she muttered. He pushed off the windowsill and came closer, stopping at the foot of the bed. Even at that distance, she could sense the coiled control in him, like a storm held barely in check. You should understand something, he said. My son is the only thing that matters to me. The only thing. Every decision I make is measured against one question. Does it keep him safe? He spread, his hands slightly. You saved him. For that, you have my gratitude. But gratitude doesn't erase risk. A woman he barely knows should not be able to override his instincts like that. He clings to you. He calls you. His jaw tightened. You can see why I might be suspicious. Suspicious enough to imprison me? Maya demanded. To cut me off from the police? From my life? I'm suspicious enough not to let an unknown variable walk freely around my city while my enemies are hunting for leverage, Minho said, calm again. You are leverage now, Miss Webb, whether you like it or not. Her mouth went dry. So that's it? She asked. I'm just stuck here? Until you decide what box to put me in on your little chessboard. Something like irritation passed over his face. You are recovering, he corrected. When my doctors clear you to walk across a room without collapsing, we will discuss arrangements. Arrangements, she echoed. You mean the terms of my captivity? The nurse shifted uncomfortably. Minho ignored her. What I mean, he said, is that you have choices. Limited ones, but choices. He ticked them off on his fingers. 1. You insist on going back to your old life as soon as you can stand, trusting that my security team will be able to keep you alive when whoever ordered that attack realizes the teacher who ruined their plan is still breathing. He lifted a second finger. 2. You stay here, under my protection. You remain close enough for my son to see you while he recalibrates. You cooperate with my people and with the doctors I bring in. You let me control the environment. Maya's stomach twisted. And 3? She asked, because some part of her knew there was always a third option with men like him. 3, Minho said softly. You make the mistake of convincing me you are a deliberate threat to my son. In which case, this conversation ends very differently. A chill crawled up her spine. He didn't have to say the word. It hung between them anyway. Dead. He didn't look like he was bluffing. Silence stretched, taut and humming. Finally, Maya sank back against the pillows, the fight in her body warring with the reality in front of her. Even if she somehow convinced him to let her go right now, she could barely sit up, let alone run from faceless men who'd walked into an elementary school armed to kill a child. Her crappy Koreatown apartment with the broken lock. Her roommate, who left the chain on out of habit only half the time. The walk to the bus stop in the dark when she stayed late grading. Minho was right about one thing. If they wanted to come for her, she was an easy target out there. I want to talk to the police, she said finally, voice low. I want that on record. I want my statement taken. Properly. You'll get your chance, he said. But not until my people have finished their work. Your people? She echoed. You mean your security? His eyes stayed on hers. Yes, he said. My security. It wasn't the whole truth. She could feel it. But pushing now would only snap something she couldn't afford to break. She let her eyes drift shut briefly, more to steady herself than anything. When she opened them again, Minho had moved closer to the side of the bed. The mattress dipped slightly under his weight as he sat on the edge, not quite touching her. In the meantime, he said, you will rest. You will eat. You will answer my questions when I ask them. I'm not your employee, Maya said, the protest automatic. He tilted his head. You are under my protection and in my home, he said. You will behave accordingly. Like a grateful charity case? She snapped. His gaze sharpened. Like someone who understands the value of being alive, he said. They stared at each other. A small, tentative voice floated from the hallway. Mom? Are you awake? Minho's shoulders tightened almost imperceptibly. He turned his head toward the door. Maya's heart lurched. Don't, she began. But the word died as the door inched open and a small figure peeked in. June stood there in the doorway in dinosaur pajamas, Mr. Bear clutched tight. His hair stuck up on one side like he'd been rolling in bed. When he saw her eyes open, his whole face lit up. Mom! He squealed, bolting into the room before either adult could react. June, Minho started, half rising. The boy ignored him. He scrambled up onto the bed with practiced ease, careful of the tubes and wires in a way that suggested this wasn't his first visit, just the first time she was awake to see it. You were sleeping for so long, he said breathlessly, arms wrapping around her as far as they could go without jostling her shoulder. Daddy said you were sick because you saved me. He pulled back just enough to look into her face, eyes, suspiciously shiny. Thank you for saving me, Mom, he whispered. I love you. The word hit her harder than any bullet. Maya's throat closed. She felt every place his small body touched hers, every fragile heartbeat. Behind him, Minho watched, his expression a battleground. Pain, anger, something like helplessness all tangled together. Maya lifted a shaking hand and smoothed June's hair. I'm here, she managed. I'm okay. For now, she didn't correct him. Not when the cost of the truth would be written on his little face in fresh terror. Later, she promised herself. When he's stronger. When I'm not hooked to machines in his father's house. If later ever came. June settled against her side like it was the most natural thing in the world, small fingers tracing absent circles over the blanket near her uninjured arm. Daddy said you were really brave, he mumbled into the fabric. He said you didn't have to save me, but you did. Anyway. He said that means you're a hero. Maya's gaze flicked to Minho. His face gave nothing away. I'm just your teacher, she said softly. Teachers are supposed to protect their students. June shook his head, stubborn. Teachers don't jump in front of bullets, he said. That's what superheroes do. Her chest tightened. Well, she said, forcing a hint of lightness into her tone. Maybe your teacher watched too many superhero movies growing up. He giggled, the sound high and fragile. It faded quickly, though, replaced by a small crease between his brows. You won't leave, right? He asked, voice barely above a whisper. You won't go away like my first mom did? Silence pressed into the room. Maya felt the weight of Minho's attention sharpen like a blade. She didn't look at him. Her focus stayed on the boy in front of her, the trembling in his bottom lip. She swallowed hard. I can't promise I'll always be right here in this bed, or in this room, but I'm not leaving you right now. Okay? I'm here now. It was the only truth she could give that wasn't a lie. He studied her face for a long, searching second. Then he nodded, apparently satisfied, and burrowed closer, head pillowed on her good shoulder. Within moments, his breathing evened out, drifting toward sleep. Children, she thought, could fall asleep anywhere, even in a stranger's crime kingpin father's penthouse, as long as they felt safe. As long as they had someone to call Mom. Maya's hand kept moving through his hair, a gentle, repetitive motion she didn't remember starting. Eventually, she looked up. Minho was still standing a few feet away, arms now folded across his chest. He'd turned slightly toward the window, but his eyes were on them. This isn't sustainable, he said quietly, so as not to wake the boy. He can't go on like this, confusing you with a ghost. Maya's jaw tightened. He's not confusing me with a ghost, she whispered back. He knows his mother died. He told me. He just connected the word with someone who made him feel safe when everything went to hell. Minho's nostrils flared. And how long do you suggest I let him keep that connection? He asked. A week? A month? Until he forgets what his actual mother looked like? Guilt flared in her chest, even though she knew it was irrational. She hadn't asked for June's attachment. She hadn't done anything to encourage it. But sitting here, a child wrapped around her like a lifeline, in a bed that wasn't hers, in a world that definitely wasn't hers, it was hard not to feel like an intruder. You should talk to a professional, she said finally. A child psychologist, someone who understands trauma. They'll be able to tell you what's best for him, how to handle this without making it worse. His eyes narrowed slightly like he hadn't considered that, or like he didn't like that it hadn't been his idea first. You think I haven't tried to get him help? He said. You think I haven't paid for the best therapists in the city? Have you brought one here since the attack? Maya countered, keeping her voice even. Has anyone explained to you what it means that he latched onto me like this? A muscle ticked in his cheek. No, he admitted after a beat. There hasn't been time. Make time, she said. For him. They stared at each other over the sleeping child, the gulf between their worlds stretching wide and taut. Finally, Minho exhaled through his nose, the sound faintly like a laugh with all the humor stripped out of it. I'll arrange for someone, he said. Today. He turned to go, then paused. And Miss Webb? He added without looking back. Yes? Until we know exactly what we're dealing with, he said. You don't correct him again when he calls you that word. Not directly. Not when it will rip the ground out from under him. She bristled. I'm not lying to him, she said. I won't pretend to be something I'm not. I'm not asking you to call yourself his mother, Minho said. I'm telling you not to tear away the anchor he's clinging to while his mind is still bleeding. You want to help him? Start there. She wanted to argue, to tell him he didn't get to dictate her morality on top of everything else he was controlling. But then June's fingers curled tighter in her sleeve, even in sleep, as if sensing the tension. Maya exhaled slowly. I'll be gentle, she said at last, with the truth. When the time comes. It was apparently close enough to compliance for him. He nodded once and left, the door closing softly behind him. The psychologist arrived that afternoon. Maya knew because the nurse fussed more than usual, straightening the sheets, replacing the lilies with fresh ones, checking her vitals, twice in an hour instead of once. There was a new tension in the staff's movements, like they were bracing for inspection. How many people work here? Maya asked at one point, watching the nurse adjust the drip rate. Enough, the woman said, lips twitching. And none who want to be on Mr. Park's bad side. Is there a good side? Maya muttered. The nurse glanced at the door, then leaned in slightly. He loves that boy, she said quietly. I've seen men with money, men with power. They all say family is everything. He's the only one I've believed. Maya didn't know what to do with that. Before she could respond, a new voice floated in from the hall, crisp and professional. I'd like to observe both together first, if possible, it said. The attachment dynamic sounds unusual. And then you'll tell me if she's manipulating him, Minho replied, the edge in his tone poorly concealed. Maya's jaw clenched. The door opened. The woman who stepped in was in her late 30s, maybe early 40s, with medium brown skin, neat braids pulled back, and glasses perched on the end of her nose. She wore a tailored blazer over a simple blouse, the kind of outfit that said competence rather than power. Miss Webb, she said, offering a small smile. I'm Dr. Elaine Porter. I specialize in childhood trauma and grief. Mr. Park asked me to assess his son's current situation. Maya eyed her. Assess away, she said. But if you're here to tell him I brainwashed his kid in the middle of an active shooter situation, you can see yourself out. Dr. Porter's mouth quirked. Mr. Park has already informed me of his theories, she said dryly. I prefer to meet my patients before I draw conclusions. She turned to the doorway and beckoned. June, you can come in now. He appeared a second later, half hiding behind his father's leg, as if this were the first day of school all over again. Mr. Bear dangled from one hand. Hi there, Dr. Porter said, lowering herself to his level. I'm Elaine. Your dad asked me to come talk to you and make sure your heart and your head are doing okay after the scary things that happened. He looked past her, straight at Maya. Can Mom stay? He asked. I don't want to talk if she's not here. Another flinch from Minho at the word. Another twist in Maya's chest. I'm not going anywhere, she said softly. I'm right here. Dr. Porter glanced between them, something assessing in her gaze. Then she nodded. Mom can stay, she said, not missing a beat on the chosen label. And Dad too, if you want. No, June said quickly, surprising them all. He shifted closer to the bed. Just Mom. The silence that followed was thick enough to choke on. Maya's eyes flicked to Minho instinctively. His face had gone very still. Very well, he said after a moment, voice cool. I'll be in the next room. Doctor, I expect a full report? Of course, Dr. Porter said. He left, closing the door with a controlled click. Dr. Porter waited a beat, listening to his footsteps recede. Then she turned back to them, her expression gentler now, almost conspiratorial. Okay, she said, settling into the chair on the other side of the bed. Why don't you tell me what happened that day, in your own words, June? From the morning at school, all the way to when you woke up here. He hesitated, thumb worrying the worn edge of Mr. Bear's ear. Can I sit with Mom? He asked. Maya patted the mattress. Come on up, she said, careful of the wires. He clambered up beside her, leaning into her side, his head under her chin. Dr. Porter watched the movement carefully, jotting something in a small notebook. Start whenever you're ready, she prompted. And slowly, haltingly, June did. He talked about the morning in class, drawing dinosaurs, the weight of his backpack, about hearing strange words he didn't understand, how Miss Webb's face changed when she opened his bag, the countdown he didn't see but could hear in her voice. He talked about the explosion, not in detail, more in sensations, the boom, the way the floor jumped, the taste of dust, the hot sting of tiny cuts on his cheek. He talked about running, then dropping Mr. Bear, the terror of going back for him alone, the men in black, the hallway, the bullets, how Miss Webb's breathing sounded funny when they were in the dark closet, the warmth of her blood soaking into his clothes. As he spoke, his fingers knotted in Maya's hospital gown. She kept her breathing steady, even when the images made her own heart race. Dr. Porter interjected only occasionally with small questions. When did you start calling her Mom? She asked at one point. June frowned. I don't know, he said. I just did. She felt like Mom. What does that mean? Dr. Porter asked. What does Mom feel like? He went quiet, little forehead scrunching. Warm, he said at last. Safe. Like when you're really scared of the dark, and then someone turns on a light and it's still dark outside, but you're not so scared anymore. Maya's eyes burned. Dr. Porter nodded slowly. Do you remember your first mom? She asked. What she looked like? Sometimes. His voice went small. Sometimes I dream about her, but when I wake up, I can't see her face all the way. It's like she's behind fog. And when you look at Miss Webb, Dr. Porter said gently, do you see your first mom's face? He shook his head, quick and sure. No, he said. She's just Mom. She's new Mom. Maya sucked in a breath. Dr. Porter's gaze flicked to her, sympathetic. I see, she said. Thank you for telling me that. You're very brave. They talked a little longer, circling around the edges of his fear of losing Maya now. 2. Dr. Porter never pushed too hard, always stopping just before his breathing tipped into panic. She ended the session with a simple grounding exercise, having him name things he could see, hear, and feel in the room. By the time she closed her notebook, his shoulders had loosened a fraction. You did really well, she said. Would it be okay if I came back again, another day, to talk some more and maybe play some games? He nodded, then yawned, exhaustion finally catching up with him. Can I stay here? He mumbled, eyes already drooping. For a little while, Maya said, brushing his hair back. Then your dad will probably want to tuck you into your own bed. He made a sleepy noise of protest but didn't argue. Dr. Porter stood, smoothing her skirt. I'll go speak to your father now, she said. Get some rest, both of you. When the door closed behind her, the room felt oddly quieter, as if the air itself were holding its breath. Maya stared at the ceiling, listening to June's soft snores, and wondered what new verdict was about to be passed on her life in the next room. On the other side of the wall, raised voices bled faintly through. Maya couldn't make out words, only tones. Minho's low, controlled anger, Dr. Porter's calmer, measured responses. Every so often, the volume would spike, then drop again, like waves hitting rock. June slept on, oblivious. After what felt like an hour but was probably only 15 minutes, the door opened again. Dr. Porter slipped back in first, expression composed but tight around the eyes. Minho followed, a step behind her, hands in his pockets, his face carved from stone. Maya's stomach sank. "Well?" she asked, keeping her voice low so as not to wake the boy. "What's the verdict? Am I an evil mastermind or just an inconvenient schoolteacher?" Dr. Porter's mouth twitched, but she didn't smile. "I've told Mr. Park my professional opinion," she said. "Now I'll tell you in front of him, so there's no miscommunication." She pulled the chair closer to the bed again and sat. "What I'm seeing," she said, "is a classic trauma attachment response. In a moment of extreme, life-threatening fear, you became the person who literally shielded his body, took the hits, and kept him alive. His brain made an almost reflexive association. Danger equals mom lost. Safety equals you." She glanced at Minho. "This is not something you caused consciously, and I see no signs that you encouraged it, Miss Webb," she added. Maya let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "However," Dr. Porter continued, "that doesn't mean it isn't real for him. Right now, the label mom is less about genetics and more about function. It's an anchor. Ripping it away abruptly, insisting he call you something else, removing you from his environment overnight, would likely re-traumatize him. At worst, it could trigger dissociation, regression, or severe anxiety." Minho's jaw tightened. "So you suggest I simply accept a stranger as my son's mother?" he said. "Pretend this is normal?" "No," Dr. Porter said patiently. "I'm suggesting we respect the child's internal reality while we carefully build a bridge back to external reality." She turned back to Maya. "Practically, that means this. For now, you stay," she said. "You maintain a consistent, nurturing presence. You don't encourage the mom label, but you also don't yank it away every time it comes out of his mouth. We introduce language like teacher, Miss Maya, helper, alongside it. Over time, in a safe environment, we can help him separate those concepts." "And how long is for now?" Minho asked, voice like ice. "A week? A year?" Dr. Porter met his gaze evenly. "Trauma doesn't follow a schedule," she said. "But I'd say we're looking at weeks, not days at minimum. Perhaps longer. We'll reassess regularly." Maya's head spun. "Wait," she said. "You're saying I have to live here? For weeks?" "That is the recommendation, yes," Dr. Porter said. "Given the ongoing external threat, it also makes sense from a safety perspective." She nodded toward Minho. "You wanted my professional opinion about whether Miss Webb is manipulating your son," she said. "My answer is no. What I see is genuine care and no signs of grooming behavior. If anything, she's more distressed by his attachment than you are. But your son's attachment is nonetheless real and powerful. Breaking it violently would be harmful." She stood. "I'll be in touch to schedule regular sessions," she said. 3 times a week, for now." With that, she left, closing the door behind her and leaving Maya alone with Minho and the sleeping child. The silence that followed felt heavier than the conversations that had preceded it. "Well," Maya said at last. There you have it. Doctor's orders. I'm your house guest from hell. Minho didn't respond immediately. He moved closer to the bed instead, looking down at his son. Something fragile flickered in his expression as he took in the sight. The small body tucked against Maya's side, the tiny hand still clenched in her gown. He hasn't slept this peacefully since his mother died, he said quietly. Even before the attack, he had nightmares, night terrors. He'd wake up screaming, convinced the car was still rolling. Maya swallowed. I'm sorry, she said, for what you both went through, for what you're going through now. He shook his head slightly. You didn't cause any of that, he said. You just stepped into the blast radius. That's one way to put it, she muttered. He looked at her fully then. The doctor's recommendation aligns with what I had already decided, he said. You will stay. You will have a room here. Staff at your disposal, security assigned. You will be part of my son's daily life, at least for the foreseeable future. The phrase landed like a verdict. And my life? She asked. My job? My apartment? My roommate? Do those just freeze until you're done with me? A muscle jumped in his cheek. You will be compensated for your time, he said. Your job at the school will be renegotiated. The school is closed for repairs and investigation anyway. As for your roommate, she will be protected. Protected how? Maya pressed. Vague promises from men who can make bodies disappear don't comfort me, you know. His eyes cooled. You're not in a position to bargain, he said. Like hell I'm not, she snapped, careful not to jostle the sleeping boy. You want me to stay here and help your son? Fine. I care about him. I want him to heal. But I'm not a piece of furniture you can just move into your life without conditions. He stared at her, clearly not accustomed to being challenged in his own home, especially by someone hooked to IV fluids. What conditions? He asked at last, voice dangerously quiet. First, she said, ticking it off mentally. My roommate. Her name is Kesha. She's innocent in all this, and she lives in the same apartment we shared. If your enemies come after me through her, that's on you. I want concrete protection for her, not just vague. We'll keep an eye out. He didn't respond, but his gaze sharpened. Second, she continued, Mr. Chen and Mr. Rodriguez, they died protecting our students. They had families, grandkids, debt probably. You have resources. I want you to use them. Set up funds. Make sure their people are taken care of. His brows drew together just slightly. And third? He prompted. Third, Maya said, the school. Sunshine Grove. Those kids need a safe place to come back to when this is over. They need counseling, security upgrades, maybe even a memorial. Whatever it takes so they don't feel like their whole world is just violence and glass and sirens now. She met his eyes, letting him see every ounce of exhaustion and defiance in her. You say I'm in your world now? She said. Then you're in mine too. My world is classrooms and children and underpaid staff who show up anyway. If you want me here, that's the price. A long, fraught beat passed. Then, to her surprise, Minho's lips curved. Not the cold, humorless smile from before, but something smaller and sharper, with a glint of respect in it. You negotiate like someone who's done this before, he said. I negotiate like someone who's tired of being pushed around by people with more money and power than sense. She shot back. Are you agreeing or not? He sobered. Kesha will have a full security detail, he said. Quietly. She'll be told it's part of an arrangement with your employer. There will be men watching her. Building? Escorts if she goes out at night. He paused. I will arrange trust funds for Mr. Chen's grandchildren and Mr. Rodriguez's children, he added. Anonymous donations. Their families will never know the source, only that the men who died did not do so for nothing. Maya's throat tightened. And the school? She pressed. He inclined his head. I'll speak to the board, to the district, if necessary. Security systems, counselors, repairs, memorial. Consider it done. Not just one plaque and a camera in the hallway, she warned. Not just one plaque, he echoed. They held each other's gaze. Then we have a deal, she said slowly. I'll stay. I'll do what I can to help June. To help him. Separate what happened from who he is. Minho nodded once. You'll have full access to him during the day, he said. Lessons, play, whatever you think is appropriate, under supervision. At night, he sleeps in his own room. Under supervision, she repeated, arching a brow. You mean your people will be watching us? I mean, he said, that until I am certain you are not a danger, intentional or otherwise, you will not be alone with my son in unsecured locations. Cameras, guards outside doors. Right, she said. Protection, not prison. He didn't bother to deny it. In return, he said, no one will enter your room without your consent unless there is an emergency. You'll have a phone, monitored but functional. You can speak to your roommate, eventually, to your principal. Within limits. Limits meaning nothing about the location, he said. Nothing about security arrangements. Nothing that would make you more of a target than you already are. She sighed. So I'm on house arrest with visitation rights, she said. Got it. He straightened. You're alive, he said. You have a purpose here. That's more than I can say for some. The image of Mr. Chen's outstretched hand flashed behind her eyes. Don't make their deaths part of your guilt trip, she said quietly. You're already paying for them. Literally. A flicker of something passed over his face. Annoyance, maybe, or grudging amusement. Rest, he said. My staff will prepare a room for you once you're strong enough to move. Until then, you stay here. He turned to go. Minho, she said suddenly, stopping him at the door. He looked back, faint surprise at the use of his first name. You said your enemies are the ones who did this, she said. The bomb, the gunmen. You said they were sending you a message through your son. His eyes went flat. Yes. Then start listening, she said, because they're not going to stop with one message. For a heartbeat, something dark and dangerous flared in his gaze. Then it shuddered again. That, he said, is one thing we agree on, Miss Webb. He left, the soft click of the door sounding, to her, like a lock sliding into place. Hours later, when the nurse had dimmed the lights and the city beyond the glass had drifted from gold to deep blue, Maya lay awake with June's earlier words looping in her head. You won't go away like my first mom did. She couldn't even promise him that. The thought kept her eyes open long after exhaustion should have dragged her under. When sleep finally took her, it was restless and shallow, full of red countdown numbers, and the echo of Minho's voice saying, You're in my world now. If you're still hooked and want to see what happens when Maya moves into the penthouse for real, new room, new rules, and new dangers right outside the glass, make sure you're subscribed and tell me in the comments. Do you trust Minho to keep his end of their deal, or do you think he's using her for something more? Morning came in gray. For a long, disoriented moment, Maya didn't know where she was. The ceiling above her was smooth, off-white plaster instead of the speckled tiles she was used to. The sheets were too soft, the air too still. Then a faint ache in her shoulder pulsed, and memory crashed back in. Bomb. Bullets. June's sobbing breath in the dark, Minho's cold voice at the parking lot, glass and sirens and... She exhaled slowly, forcing herself not to spiral. The city beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows was a hazy watercolor, skyscrapers softened by low clouds. Somewhere out there, her old life was continuing without her. Kids watching the news. Parents clutching them tighter. Kesha pacing their tiny apartment, swearing at her phone. In here, it was quiet. Too quiet. The door clicked softly, and a woman in a charcoal skirt and white blouse stepped in, carrying a tablet. Her hair was pulled back in a sleek bun, a small, discreet earpiece curved along one ear. "Good morning, Miss Webb," she said. "I'm Hannah. Mr. Park asked me to assist you with whatever you need while you're recovering." "Is that what we're calling this?" Maya muttered. "Assistance?" Hannah's lips twitched like she'd heard worse. "Your doctor has cleared you to move with support," she said. "We'd like to relocate you to your own room, somewhere less medical." "Less medical," Maya repeated. "More prison-like." Hannah didn't rise to the bait. "You'll be more comfortable," she said instead, "and more independent." Independent, with guards at the door and cameras watching, no doubt. Still, a part of Maya was relieved at the idea of leaving the beeping machines behind. She glanced at the small lump in the bed next to her. At some point, in the early hours, a sleepy June had been carried back to his own room. Only the faint dent in the mattress remained where his small body had been. "Fine," she said. "Let's go see my new gilded cage." Walking hurt. Even with Hannah on one side and the nurse on the other, every step sent a row of sparks up her leg and tugged at the healing wound in her shoulder. Her back ached dully, muscles protesting after days of enforced stillness. She grit her teeth and focused on the pattern of the hallway runners instead of the pain. The penthouse stretched out in quiet luxury. Polished wood floors, understated art, walls of glass displaying the city like a living mural. The air smelled faintly of coffee and something savory. Somewhere, distant, a child's voice laughed. They passed men in suits posted at invisible checkpoints, earpieces glinting. Each one gave a small nod as they went by. Maya ignored them, not trusting herself not to say something that would get her thrown over someone's very expensive shoulder and carried back to bed. Her new room was at the end of a corridor on the opposite side of the penthouse from where she'd woken up. It was smaller than the master suite, but still several times bigger than her bedroom back home. Soft gray walls, a bed with an upholstered headboard, a small seating area by a corner window, a door that led to a bathroom that looked like it belonged in a boutique hotel. There were already touches that weren't generic hotel stock, though. A stack of children's books sat on the nightstand, titles she recognized from her classroom. A sketchbook lay on the chair by the window, a box of crayons on top. A small potted plant perched on a shelf, its leaves glossy. Maya paused, eyebrows lifting. "Someone's been decorating," she said. Hannah's gaze flicked to the sketchbook. "June insisted on helping prepare your room," she said. "He chose the books and the plant. Mr. Bear is in his own room, of course. Non-negotiable." Despite herself, Maya smiled. "Of course," she said. "Can't separate a boy and his bear. Not after all that." The nurse helped her ease onto the bed, adjusting pillows behind her back. Hannah moved silently around the room, checking something on the wall. Probably a IFT camera, then tapping notes into her tablet. "You have a direct line to the kitchen," she said, nodding toward a small touch panel near the bed. "Press here for meals. Press here if you require medical assistance. Press here if there is an emergency." "What counts as an emergency?" Maya asked. "Someone breaking in? Or me trying to sneak out?" Hannah's expression didn't change. "You won't be able to leave this floor without clearance," she said. "But no one will stop you from walking around the common areas when you are strong enough. Within reason." "Within reason," Maya repeated. "You all really love your qualifiers, don't you?" Before Hannah could answer, there was a patter of quick footsteps in the hall. A second later, the door burst open and a very familiar, small figure charged in. "Mom!" "Easy, Tiger," the nurse said reflexively, but it was too late. June launched himself at the bed, clambering up with the single-mindedness of a child whose concept of careful was still under construction. Maya braced herself, biting back a wince as the mattress bounced. "Hey," she said, managing a smile. "You found me." "Daddy said you were getting a new room," he said, beaming. "I helped." "I noticed," she said, nodding toward the books. "You picked some of my favorites." He puffed up with pride. "I told them you like dinosaur stories and ones where the kids are brave," he said. "And I picked the plant because the lady at the store said it was hard to kill. She said even teachers can't kill it." Maya laughed, the sound startling in the quiet room. "Wow," she said. "Teachers catching strays out here." "Is it true?" he asked, wide-eyed. "That you're bad at plants?" "I'm bad at remembering to water them," she admitted. "But maybe I'll do better with this one, since I have a helper." "You have me," he said firmly. Something in her chest did a slow, painful twist. "Yeah," she said softly. "I have you." Days blurred, they settled into a strange, uneasy rhythm. Mornings with physical therapy and checkups, afternoons with lesson-like games for June, Dr. Porter's visits 3 times a week, evenings where Maya stared out at the city lights and wondered if anyone out there missed her as much as this one child did. True to his word, Minho had given her a monitored phone. The first call to Keisha had nearly broken her. "Girl, if you ever disappear for 2 days again without warning, I will resurrect your ancestors just to have them yell at you," Kesha had said, voice equal parts furious and relieved. "You're okay? They're treating you okay? You're not in a Saw movie right now, are you?" "I'm alive," Maya had said, hedging as much as she could under the unseen weight of whatever security software was listening. "Recovering. It's complicated." Complicated like, I tripped and fell into some rich man's bathtub complicated, or complicated like, organized crime is involved. Complicated? Kesha had demanded. Maya had swallowed a hysterical laugh. "Somewhere between," she'd said. "I'll explain when I can. Just, if some guys in suits offer you a ride, maybe don't freak out and pepper spray them, okay? They're there to keep you safe." Kesha had gone ominously quiet at that. "Maya Catherine Webb," she'd said slowly. "What exactly did you get yourself into?" "Saving a kid," Maya had said. "That's all. Just saving a kid." Now, sitting in the armchair by the window while June colored in the sketchbook at her feet, it almost felt like 2 different lives. The one where her biggest worry was funding for the after-school reading program, and this one, where men with guns stood outside the door and a crime boss's son hummed quietly on her floor. "Look," June said suddenly, holding up the paper. "It's us." She peered down. The drawing was childish but earnest. 3 stick figures, one small, one tall, one with what might have been a mass of curly hair, standing in front of a big rectangle with lots of tiny squares. The penthouse windows, she guessed. The small stick figure had a big scribbled heart over its chest. The curly-haired one had a cape. "You gave me a cape?" she asked, half teasing. "You're a superhero," he said matter-of-factly. "And him?" She nodded at the tall figure. He hesitated. "Daddy is—" He considered, then drew a small crown over the tall figure's head. "He's a king, but like, a mad king sometimes." Maya bit back a laugh. "Don't let him hear you say that," she murmured. "His head's big enough." As if summoned by slander, there was a soft knock at the door. This one, controlled, not the chaotic burst of a child. "Come in," she called. Minho stepped inside, dressed down in a dark sweater and slacks, no tie in sight. His gaze swept the room, cataloging everything in a heartbeat. Her position, June on the floor, the sketchbook, the plant by the window. "How's the physical therapy?" he asked, nodding at her leg. "Like being slowly tenderized," she said, "but I'm limping less." "She walked all the way to the kitchen today," June piped up proudly. "We got cookies." Maya shot him a look. "Tiny narc," she muttered. "You were supposed to keep that between us." Minho's mouth twitched. "You're not supposed to be walking that far yet," he said. "The kitchen can bring things to you." "I needed to move," she said. "And I needed to not feel like a patient or a prisoner." His eyes flicked to Hannah, who stood just outside in the hall. The woman gave a small shrug, almost imperceptible. "She had clearance," Hannah said. "And 3 guards tailing her. The cookies were earned." Maya arched a brow at him. "See?" she said. "Even your people think I deserve baked goods." He studied her for a moment longer, then seemed to let it go. "Dinner will be in an hour," he said. "Together." "Together?" Maya repeated. He nodded. "My mother insists we present a unified front," he said dryly. "Apparently, family dinners are important for bonding." "Your mother's right," Maya said, before she could stop herself. He shot her a look. "Don't tell her that," he said. "She'll never let me forget it." Dinner was awkward. The dining room was all clean lines and soft light, a long table that could seat 12 with ease. Tonight there were only 4 chairs occupied. Minho at the head, Mrs. Park to his right, Maya to his left, and June next to her. A place setting sat empty opposite Maya, utensils perfectly aligned, a ghost seat for a woman who wasn't coming back. Maya tried not to stare at it. "How is the food, Miss Webb?" Mrs. Park asked, breaking the brittle quiet. "Delicious," Maya said. "Honestly, whatever Chef Minho paid clearly earned every cent." "Thank you, Mrs. Park." "You may call me Halmoni," the older woman said. "Grandmother, at least in this house." Maya blinked. Are you sure?" she asked. "You are important to my grandson," Mrs. Park said simply. "That makes you important to me." Warmth and discomfort tangled in Maya's chest. "Okay," she said softly. "Halmoni." Across the table, Minho's fork paused for a fraction of a second. His mother smiled, satisfied. "See?" she said, turning to him. "It is not difficult to expand the family when you choose correctly." He sighed. "We are not adopting his teacher," he said. "She's here temporarily." "Temporary can become permanent," Mrs. Park said serenely. "You should know, you were only supposed to stay 1 month after your father died. Yet here you are." Maya focused very hard on her rice. Under the table, she felt a small nudge. June's hand brushed hers, tentatively. When she glanced down, he slid his palm into hers, fingers curling tight. She squeezed back. Something unclenched in his shoulders. "If you're still here, it means you're probably in love with messy, dangerous family dinners as much as Maya is," the narrator's voice cuts in, light and teasing. "Tap that like button if you'd be terrified and intrigued at that table too. And tell me in the comments, would you sit next to Minho or as far away from him as possible?" Later, after dessert and an argument between Halmoni and Minho in rapid-fire Korean that centered around the words date and remarriage more times than Maya could count, she limped back to her room alone. The corridor was quiet. Hannah had peeled off to deal with some crisis of scheduling. The guards at the corner nodded as she passed. Her room felt different at night. The city's lights turned the windows into mirrors. She caught a glimpse of herself reflected there. Tired eyes, hospital, bracelet still on one wrist, oversized t-shirt hanging off one shoulder. The plant sat on the sill, leaves outlined in neon spill. She moved closer, resting a hand on the cool glass. From here she could see other high-rises, other windows burning warm rectangles against the dark. Somewhere in one of those, people were watching TV, arguing about dishes, tucking kids into bed. Somewhere, someone might be watching back. The thought slid into her mind uninvited. She narrowed her eyes, scanning the opposite building faces more carefully. Most windows were just light and vague movement. One, though, a few floors down and across, was dark. Curtains half drawn. Nothing suspicious in itself. She breathed out, ready to step back. That's when she saw it. A tiny red dot, no bigger than a pencil eraser, bloomed on the glass near her shoulder. It slid slowly along the pane, up, then down, then paused. Right over the center of her chest. Her body locked. Every instinct screamed down, but terror pinned her in place for a heartbeat too long. Then training, the active shooter drills, the way she'd thrown that backpack, kicked in. She dropped, hitting the floor hard enough to jar her wounds, a strangled yelp escaping. The dot vanished. Heart hammering, she crawled sideways, out of line with the window, and groped blindly for the emergency button on the touch panel. Her fingers found it and slammed down. The reaction was instant. The door burst open, 2 guards flooding in with guns drawn, Hannah right behind them, hand already at her earpiece. "Miss Webb?" one of the men barked. "What happened?" "Window!" she gasped, trying to suck air back into her lungs. Red dot, like a laser sight, on the glass. Hannah moved to the window immediately, staying low, peering up at the opposite building. She spoke rapid Korean into her mic, voice clipped. "Visual sweep of adjacent structures," she ordered. "Possible optics aimed at east-facing windows. Now." One of the guards cursed under his breath. "Get away from the glass," he snapped at no one in particular, even though Maya was already on the floor. Footsteps pounded in the hallway. More men. Voices overlapping in English and Korean. Somewhere, an alarm system that didn't make any sound in the children's books went off. A silent scramble. Within minutes, the room was full. Minho arrived last. He didn't burst in. He entered with that same controlled, lethal calm. But there was a tightness around his eyes that hadn't been there at dinner. His gaze swept over Maya on the floor, the guards by the window, Hannah with her tablet up. "What happened?" he asked. Maya pushed herself up on her elbows, ignoring the protest from her leg. "Someone painted a red dot on my window," she said. "Like a scope. It moved. Then it stopped. Right. Here." She tapped her chest. His jaw hardened. "Did you see Origin?" he asked Hannah. "Possibly from the opposite tower, 23rd or 24th floor," she said. "Our cameras picked up a brief light anomaly. Thermal sweep is negative now. Whoever it was, they're gone." "Find the unit," he said. "Find out who rents it, who owns it, who's been near it in the last month. I want every feed, every access log." "Yes, sir," Hannah said, already moving toward the door. Minho crossed to Maya, crouching in front of her. From this angle, with the city lights haloing his shoulders, he almost looked like a normal man worried about a guest. Not a criminal kingpin whose enemies were now aiming at her chest as well as his son's. "Are you hurt?" he asked. "Just my pride," she said weakly. "And my tailbone." He didn't smile. "This is what I warned you about," he said quietly. "You're not collateral damage anymore. You're a part of the equation." "Comforting," she muttered. His gaze moved to the window again, then back to her. "We'll increase your security," he said. "No more time alone in rooms with full glass. You'll keep the curtains drawn at night. And you'll stay away from the windows until we know who did this and why." "Why?" she echoed, dazed. "Isn't it obvious? They missed your son at the school. Now they're taking pot shots at whoever got in the way." "Maybe," he said. "Or maybe they wanted to send me a different message tonight." He stood, looking down at her. "You're in this now," he said. "Fully. There's no going back. If you're still with Maya, heart pounding on that bedroom floor, hit subscribe, because this is the moment she truly crosses the line from heroic bystander to someone the enemies are actively hunting. And tell me in the comments, do you think that red dot was meant to kill, or just to scare Minho into making a mistake? Security tightened overnight. The next morning, when Maya opened her eyes, the curtains were already drawn, heavy blackout, fabric sealing the glass in a dull gray wall. The hum of the city was muted. Outside her door, she could hear the low murmur of male voices, the occasional crackle of a radio. When Hana brought in breakfast on a tray, Maya nodded toward the sealed windows. "Is it going to be like this every day now?" she asked. "Living in a cave?" "For now," Hana said, "until we have more information." "Did you find anything?" Maya pressed. "About the apartment across the way?" Hana hesitated for a fraction of a second, then set the tray down. "Mr. Park will discuss that with you," she said. "He asked me to bring you to his office once you've eaten." "His office?" Maya repeated. "Is that like being summoned to the principal? Or to the warden?" Hana's mouth twitched. "Depends on the day," she said. "Eat. You'll want your strength." Minho's office looked exactly like she'd imagined and nothing like it at all. One whole wall was glass, currently hidden behind the same blackout curtains as her room. Another was floor-to-ceiling shelves, filled not just with legal-looking binders but actual books. Hardcovers in Korean and English, titles about economics, philosophy, history. A sleek desk dominated the center, monitors arranged in a semicircle on one side like a bank of eyes. Right now, those monitors showed a dozen different angles of the building exterior. Street-level views, roof lines, a grainy still of a darkened window in the opposite tower. Maya's gaze snagged on that last one. "That's where it came from?" she asked. Minho nodded, not bothering with small talk. "Unit 2407, he said. "Registered to a shell company in Hong Kong, leased out month to month, paid in cash." He tapped a key. Another image replaced the grainy still, a closer shot of the window, frame enhanced. "Security reached the apartment 20 minutes after the alert," he said. "It was empty. No tenant. No personal effects." "Nothing?" Maya asked. "Nothing that mattered," he said. "Some folding furniture, cheap dishes, no electronics, no documents. The walls had fresh patch marks where cameras and mounts were removed." He changed feeds again. Now the screen showed a hallway camera, two blurry figures in hoodies exiting an elevator, heads down, faces obscured by masks and caps. One was tall and broad-shouldered, the other slighter, with a distinctive limp. "They left 5 minutes after the alarm," he said. "Emergency exit. They knew our response time." Maya hugged her arms around herself. "So they didn't just get lucky?" she said. "They were testing you. Testing us." He nodded once. "Whoever they are, they're professionals," he said. "But they also sent a message." "What message?" she demanded. "That they can shine little red dots on glass? That they know where you live? Pretty sure you already assumed that." His eyes were dark, unreadable. "The message," he said, "is that they know where you live." It took her a moment to parse that. When it hit, her stomach dropped. "Oh," she said softly. "You mean me." He inclined his head. "The school attack could be traced to me easily," he said. "Anyone who knows my enemies knows my son is my weakness. But this is different. They've made the effort to find out who saved him, where she sleeps, what she means to him now." He leaned back in his chair. "Congratulations, Miss Webb," he said. "You are officially leverage." "Great," she muttered. "Just what I always wanted to be when I grew up." His mouth twitched, but there was no real humor in it. "Security around you and my son will be doubled," he said. No more time alone by the windows. No access to the rooftop garden until we have this handled. Rooftop garden? She echoed. Wait. You have a rooftop garden and you didn't lead with that before the part where I'm leverage. Priorities, he said. She rolled her eyes. If whoever this is wanted me dead, she said, they could have pulled the trigger last night. Maybe, he said. Or maybe they wanted to see how fast we responded, how many men we put on you, how important you are. It was a deeply unsettling thought that somewhere behind a lens, someone had been taking notes on her worth. So what now? She asked. We just sit here and wait for them to try again? His gaze sharpened. No, he said. We follow the money. And the habits. He turned to one of the side monitors and pulled up a different set of images, graphs, account numbers, transaction logs. Whoever paid for that unit uses the same financial pathways as a group I've had disagreements with, he said. They're not new enemies. They're just more ambitious than I thought. Disagreements, she echoed dryly. You mean the people who blew up my classroom? In my world, that qualifies as more than a disagreement, he said. Regardless, this confirms a suspicion I've had for some time, that they have help. Help? She asked. As in, more soldiers? More money? As in information, he said. Access codes, security patterns, internal protocols. He met her eyes. As in, someone close to me is feeding them what they need. The room seemed to tilt for a second. You think you have a mole? She said. I know I have a mole, he corrected. The only question is who? She swallowed. And you're telling me this because you're in the blast radius, he said simply. You deserve to know where the shrapnel might come from. He stood, closing one of the monitors with a decisive flick. When he spoke again, his voice was more controlled. There's something else, he said. About that day in the hallway. You heard the men speaking Korean. You recognized words. She nodded slowly. Bomb, she said. The boy. After lunch. I didn't catch everything. They were talking fast. Did you recognize their accents? He asked. Regional markers? She blinked. I'm not that good, she said. I can hold a parent-teacher conference, not write a linguistics thesis. He grunted, not quite a laugh. Dr. Porter tells me you began learning the language for your students, he said. 3 years is not nothing. Heat crept up her neck. I just wanted to talk to their grandmas without making a fool of myself, she muttered. Didn't think I'd be eavesdropping on murder plots. He regarded her for a long moment. If you remember anything else, any words, any names, you tell me, he said. Directly. Not Hannah. Not my mother. Me. She bristled. I'm not your employee, she said. In this, you are my ally, he said. Temporary. Uneasy. But ally nonetheless. The word stole some of the sting from his tone. She exhaled. Fine, she said. If my brain coughs up anything useful, you'll be the first terrifying person I inform. Good, he said. He walked her back to the door himself, an unnecessary gesture given the guards outside, but somehow it made the conversation feel less like an interrogation and more like a briefing. Miss Webb, he said as she stepped into the hall. She turned. Yes? Stay close to my son today, he said. Stick to routines. It will help him, and it will make you harder to isolate. Orders and concern in the same sentence, she said. Careful. People might start thinking you're human. His eyes flickered just once, like a shadow passing behind glass. Don't spread rumors, he said. The next week was an exercise in pretending things were normal while knowing they absolutely were not. Maya and June fell into a daily schedule that was part school day, part therapy, part surreal domesticity. Morning, reading at the small table in her room. Math games that involved counters shaped like dinosaurs. Writing practice where he laboriously traced Korean characters while she corrected his pencil grip. Dr. Porter's sessions 3 times a week, sometimes with both of them. Sometimes with just June. Sometimes with Minho awkwardly present in the corner, looking like a man who'd rather face a firing squad than talk about his feelings. Afternoons in the living room. Curtains drawn just enough to break the line of sight from neighboring towers, where Halmoni would appear with snacks and gently interrogate Maya about her life before Los Angeles, her family in Atlanta, her reasons for teaching. "You could have done anything," the older woman said one day, watching as Maya and June played a card game on the coffee table. "You are clever. You are stubborn. Why choose a job that pays so little?" "Because it matters," Maya said simply. "Because there's nothing like watching a kid light up when they finally understand something. Because I had teachers who changed my life, and I wanted to pay that forward." "Even when the parents are difficult?" Halmoni asked, amused. "Especially then," Maya said. "The difficult parents are usually scared of failing their kids, of repeating their own parents' mistakes." Her gaze slid, just for a second, to where Minho stood at the edge of the room, ostensibly on a call, but clearly listening. Halmoni followed her look and smiled faintly. "Yes," she said. "Fear makes people foolish." Nights were the hardest. During the day, there were tasks, distractions, small hands tugging at her sleeves. At night, when the penthouse quieted and even the guard's footsteps grew more infrequent, she lay in her too-soft bed and the silence filled with ghosts. Mr. Chen's outstretched hand, Mr. Rodriguez's terrible jokes, Kesha's laugh echoing in their tiny kitchen. 23 small desks, one backpack, full of death. Sometimes she dreamed she hadn't reached it in time. Sometimes she woke to find her own hand clutched to her chest, fingers digging into her sternum like she could stop a blast that had already happened. On those nights, she'd hear soft footfalls in the hallway, a whisper of fabric, and then a small knock. "Mom?" It never ceased to make her heart stutter. She'd open the door to find June there, hair rumpled, Mr. Bear sagging in his grip. "I had a bad dream," he'd say. Can I sleep here? Just for a little?" The first time, she'd hesitated, glancing down the hall at the guard with the earpiece. He'd looked to his left, listened to some unseen instruction, then nodded once. "Door stays open," he'd said quietly. "He sleeps on top of the covers." She'd wanted to snap at the implication, but the boy's eyes were wide and wet, and the echo of her own nightmares was still too loud in her head. "Okay," she'd said instead. "Come on." He'd crawl onto the bed, curl up carefully against her uninjured side, and be asleep within minutes, breath whispering against her arm. On those nights, it wasn't just his terror that eased. It was hers. If you've ever had nightmares that only calmed down when someone else was there, hit that like button. The narrator's voice slides in, gentle. And tell me in the comments, do you think this forced proximity family is healing them, or setting them up for an even bigger heartbreak later? The bigger heartbreak came on a Tuesday. The day started ordinary, at least by their new standards. Reading, writing, Dr. Porter asking questions about school and friends, lunch with Halmoni, who scolded Minho for answering work calls at the table in a way that would have been funny if not for the constant awareness of men with guns just out of sight. In the afternoon, June complained of a headache. "He feels warm," Maya said, pressing the back of her hand to his forehead. "Maybe he's coming down with something." The in-house doctor checked him over, pronounced it a mild fever likely brought on by stress and disrupted sleep. "Keep him hydrated," she said. Let him rest. Call me if it spikes. So they settled him into his own bed for once, curtains drawn, lights low. Maya sat on the edge, reading aloud from one of his dinosaur books while he blinked sleepily. Did you know some dinosaurs had feathers? She asked. People used to think they were all big scaly lizards, but now scientists say some of them were more like giant birds. He frowned. Like chickens? He asked. Very mean chickens, she said, with lots of teeth. He giggled weakly, then winced, hand going to his temple. Hurts, he mumbled. She smoothed his hair back, concern pinching. We can stop, she said. You should sleep. He nodded, eyes drifting closed. She sat with him until his breathing deepened, then slipped out, leaving the door cracked. 2 guards took up positions outside, one on either side, as always. She'd barely made it halfway down the hall toward her own room when a small, choked cry floated back. Mom! Maya spun. The guards were already moving, but she was faster. She pushed past them and into the dim room. June was sitting bolt upright, eyes wide and unfocused, sweat plastering his hair to his forehead. His chest heaved, breath coming in sharp, panicked gasps. Mom, he sobbed when he saw her, reaching out with both hands. Don't go again, please. She crossed to him in 3 limping steps and gathered him close, ignoring the pull in her healing shoulder. I'm here, she said, heart pounding. I'm right here. You're safe. He shook against her. The car, he gasped. The car. There was water and glass and... Maya's blood ran cold. Hey, she murmured, rubbing circles on his back. Slow breaths, in and out. You're in your bed. You're not in the car. You're here with me. He clutched at her shirt, fingers digging in. You left. He mumbled against her chest. You left, and then the car went in the water, and I couldn't get out, and Daddy yelled, and... Her own breath stuttered. He's not talking about me, she realized. He's talking about her, his first mother. June, she said softly, can you tell me about the car? Just a little? He whimpered. Don't want to, he said. Hurts. Okay, she soothed. Okay. You don't have to. Just breathe. Behind her, she heard movement in the doorway. Minho stood there, one hand braced on the frame, face ashen. Halmoni hovered just behind him, a hand clapped over her mouth. Dr. Porter, who happened to still be in the penthouse going over notes with them earlier, slipped in quietly, eyes sharpening at the scene. Night terror? She whispered. Fever dream, Maya murmured back. He's talking. About the car. The accident. Dr. Porter's gaze locked on the boy. Can I try something? She asked. Maya nodded, heart in her throat. Dr. Porter moved closer, keeping her voice low and soothing. Hey, kiddo, she said. It's Dr. Elaine, remember me? He peeked over Maya's arm, eyes glassy. Hi, he hiccuped. You're really brave, talking about scary things, she said. Sometimes when our brain is ready, it shows us old stuff in our dreams. You want to try something with me? Just a quick question. Then you can rest. He sniffled, then nodded slightly. Okay, she said. When you think about the car, when you think about that day, do you remember anyone else being there? Anyone outside the car? His brow furrowed, small face screwing up in concentration. There was a man, he said slowly. He was standing by the road. He talked to Daddy. They were shouting. Mommy said stop. Stop. Then we got in the car and Daddy was mad and we went fast and then the truck and the water and... His breath hitched, eyes squeezing shut. It's okay, Maya whispered. It's okay. You're here. You're not in the car. Dr. Porter nodded, keeping her tone gentle. You're doing great, she said. Can you remember anything else about the man? What he looked like? His clothes? He frowned harder. Suit, he mumbled. Black, like Daddy's friends. He had ring, shiny ring with dragon on it. The room's temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. Maya didn't understand why until she saw Minho's face. All the color had drained from it. His eyes were fixed on his son, but they were seeing something else now. A memory, maybe, superimposed over the trembling child. A man in a black suit, a ring with a dragon. "Can you remember his name?" Dr. Porter asked softly. "Did Daddy say his name?" There was a long, long pause. In the silence, Maya could hear the faint hum of the air, conditioning, the creak of floorboards as someone shifted their weight. Then, in a small, sleepy voice, like a confession, June whispered a name. It dropped into the room like a bomb. Maya felt, more than saw, Minho flinch, because the name wasn't one she'd heard on the news or in whispered hallway rumors. It wasn't the name of a rival boss or a faceless enemy. It was the name of the man she'd seen in and out of the penthouse almost every day since she woke up here. The one who sometimes ruffled June's hair, who brought Minho files late at night, who had laughed with Halmoni over tea. Minho's oldest friend, his right hand, his most trusted ally. The man with a dragon ring she'd noticed only once, in passing, thinking it was just another expensive accessory. Maya's heart pounded in her ears. She tightened her grip around June instinctively, as if she could shield him from the implications of his own memory. At the doorway, Halmoni swayed, one hand grasping the frame, like she needed it to stay upright. Minho took one slow, shuddering breath, then another. When he spoke, his voice was quieter than Maya had ever heard it. "Are you certain?" he asked. The question wasn't to them. It wasn't even to Dr. Porter. It was to his son. But June had already slipped past the peak of his terror. The fever and adrenaline crash were dragging him back under. His lashes fluttered once, twice, then lowered. His grip on Maya's shirt loosened, just a little. "Don't go," he whispered, already half asleep. "Don't go with him again, Mom." Then he was out, breaths evening into the slow rhythm of exhausted sleep. The adults remained frozen. Dr. Porter broke the silence first. "We need to document this," she said quietly, "while it's fresh. And we need to be careful. Memory is tricky, especially in trauma, but kids don't usually invent details like that out of nowhere." Her eyes met Maya's, then flicked to Minho. "Especially not rings," she added. "Or names." Minho's hands curled into fists at his sides. For the first time since she'd met him, Maya saw something like pure, unfiltered hurt crack through his control. "If what he remembers is true," he said, each word like ground glass, "then the person who helped kill my wife has been standing at my right hand for the past 4 years. He looked at Maya then, and in his eyes she saw not suspicion or calculated interest, but something raw. "This," he said, voice low and shaking with contained fury, "is why you are not going anywhere, Miss Webb. Because if my enemies have been inside my house this whole time, then both you and my son are in more danger than you can possibly imagine." He turned and left without another word, shoulders rigid, the guards peeling off the wall to fall in behind him like shadows. Maya looked down at the sleeping child in her arms, at the damp curls on his forehead, at Mr. Bear squashed between them. She thought of the red dot on her window, of the bomb in the backpack, of the way the supposed federal agent at the school had stepped in so smoothly to take control. The danger wasn't just out there, in rival towers and anonymous shell companies. It was in here, in the cracks of a family that had built its walls on secrets. If you need part 2 right now to find out what Minho does with this betrayal, and whether Maya survives being caught in the middle of a Mafia civil war, let me know in the comments and smash that subscribe button. Part 2 is coming soon, and trust me, You don't want to miss what happens when the traitor realizes June remembered his face.